Thanks for hopping on, guys. We have Miss Natalie Foeller, or you might have to repronounce your last name here, but I appreciate you hopping on, Natalie. And I actually got a chance to meet her in Ohio a couple conventions ago, and just really was excited to hear more of her story. And I had heard a very short testimony of it prior. So I just thought she had a lot of value to add, and wanted to be able to get to hear her story of like where she started, why network marketing, why Plexus, like what does that look like, and tips from the top, because she's gone double diamond, which is a big deal. And in Canada. And so I would just love to be able to hear some of that information, like as a whole in business, and then what does it look like Canada versus US, and what you've seen that's helped. So, and then we'll open it up for some questions if we've got some time at the end. So Natalie, feel free to take it away.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, guys, it's hard to believe that I have now been here 12 years. 12 years in September, 12 years ago. And I started here at the age of 50, and it was to create a retirement plan for myself. I'll go back. I've been in this industry for quite a number of years. In fact, it was 1994 when I went to see a doctor in Toronto for some health challenges I was having. I was nursing at the time. I was both nursing, as in breastfeeding nursing, and nursing as a nurse. So I really wanted to do a holistic approach with some health challenges that I had. And I went to see a doctor who introduced me to this world of supplements. I knew nothing about supplements. I'd never taken a multivitamin, so it was totally new to me. And in fact, when he gave me, hello there, when he gave me an analogy, I'm going to give it to you actually, because it was so powerful. It changed everything for me and changed the whole trajectory of my career. I was a nurse manager, a maternal infant high risk nurse. I was a lactation consultant. I coordinated the prenatal classes for our city. And so this was a real change when I went into this field. But when I exposed to him that I had no concept of natural health, vitamins, nothing, supplements, I knew nothing about them. He said, well, let me explain to you where they fit. And he said, he was holding two cups. One was like an 8-ounce cup and one was like a 4-ounce cup. And he said, let these cups illustrate our immune system as a newborn. And he said, if all things are pretty equal, mom didn't smoke, she ate a fairly healthy diet, full term delivery. She did all she could do, and there wasn't exposure to environmental toxins, etc. Essentially, every infant is born with a pretty clean cup, pretty empty cup. Now, our job is to keep the cup empty during the day by drinking good quality water, exercise, good sleep, happy living, good nutrition, good supplements. All of these things help to keep our cup from spilling over. We detoxify throughout the day by making the right choices. And he said, if you think of your health on a continuum, he said, you're neither 100% healthy or 100% unhealthy. You're always somewhere in that continuum, and it changes by the day. Did you get exposed to some viruses or bacteria? Did you get exposed to some toxins? Were you in a building that was just all new carpets were put in and there was some off-gassing going on, or you're in a really polluted city, or you ate really poorly that day? All of those things move your health status a little bit on the continuum. Now, the only thing that we really have zero control of is who we are genetically. So some people are born to families where there's lots of cancer, or there's lots of autoimmune disorders, or there's immune suppressed disorders. There's a lot of diabetes, whatever it is. He said, you are born with some genetics. Now, you're not victim to the genetics, but your health is influenced by those genetics. So he said, our job every day is to keep the cup from spilling over. And so we have to make these healthy choices. If the cup spills over, there is definite disease symptoms, dis-ease symptoms. So he said, if you're an infant, it might be ears, right? It could be skin conditions. They're not going to have fibromyalgia at 8 months old. They're not going to get Crohn's disease at 8 months old. So depending on when your cup really spills over is when symptoms of disease, age-related symptoms of disease happen. And so at all ages, our job is to keep our cup from spilling over. It fascinated me when he gave me this story. And he said, so supplements fit in there because it's impossible to get all the nutrients from our diet, even if you eat almost perfectly, simply because our vegetables, our fruits, our live foods don't have the nutrients they once had because the soils are so depleted of minerals. Okay, so that was the foundation. I went to him and I thought, wow, this is so fascinating. So I started studying about the supplements, and I was getting them from a company he recommended that was called Enrich. You guys may never have heard of Enrich, but that's where I got to know Tarl. Tarl's stepdad and mom, Shirley, Ken Pontius and Shirley, were the top earners of this company. In fact, Ken made more money in this industry than anybody in the world was making at the time. He was earning about $400,000 a month in the 90s. And so Ken and Shirley were part of my support team, and Tarl was just a teenager. Alec was working. Alec was there corporately. I knew him well. So I'll jump way ahead. I was in this industry from 94 all the way until 2012 in some capacity, when I had actually had a call from the owners back around 2009 and 2010 to ask if I might be interested in taking a look at Plexus. But they weren't open in Canada, and I didn't foresee that as being something that was going to happen too quickly. And I kind of forgot about them until 2012, when my girlfriend was passing through my town on the way to her cottage. And I was already known as the poop lady. I taught about gut health before we really knew that term. I taught people how it was important to have a fawn, fluffy floater versus a stinky, slimy sinker. And I had a whole model I would do from stage. And so when she stopped by, she said, "You've got to talk to Tarl and Alec and Alfred," because Alfred was here at the time. "You got to talk to them about Plexus. You know, they are a real gut health company, and they've kind of taken up a whole other level." So I got on the phone with them at the end of August in 2012, and decided that based on everything they were sharing with me, in particular, what excited me was a compensation plan. That was something I was kind of, I was passionate about compensation plans. The year before, in 2011, I had been invited by the American Network Marketing Professional Association. I was one of 3 Canadians, and there were 4 Americans and a comp plan engineer. We were invited to evaluate compensation plans across the United States. We started in Port St. Lucie, Florida. We finished in Sacramento, California. We did 8 cities in 7 states in 8 days. And we were evaluating the compensation plan, interviewing the top earners and the corporate officers. And we were charged with a couple questions in particular, but one was, what would you change if you could and still maintain the integrity of the company? But what's the one obstacle, basically, that prevents people from having success? And I learned a lot in that 8 days. Plexus wasn't even on my radar at all when I began to look for a company in 2011. And after that 8 days doing this little job for the American Network Marketing Professional Association, I was really clear on the things that I did not want in a company. But again, Plexus wasn't on my radar. So my girlfriend stopped by and said, "Nat, the products are going to make you sing because it's your language. But the compensation plan," she said, "I don't really understand it all." But she said, "I was with Alfred the other night, and he was explaining to me how he wrote this compensation plan and what he thought was really beautiful about it. And maybe you need to call and talk to them about it." I was on the phone for 3 hours between Alec, Alfred, and Tarl, and I was ecstatic. We were now, as it turns out, 6 years from opening in Canada, but I started building the business. And just to give you a quick aside, it was a Tuesday that I signed up. And exactly 1 week later, on a Tuesday, we found out my husband's cancer had metastasized. So it took a little bit of a change because it was meaning he was going into treatment 5 days a week. And we were believers. We had been 6-figure income earners. We hadn't made under 100,000 a year, and in fact, much more than that for many years. So when we came in, we knew what we did in the first 60, 90, 120 days could really set us up for the year. We're real believers in, I was in particular a real believer that get out of balance, do it all as much as you can in 30, 60, 90 days, because you can really set your next year on fire with that kind of activity. So we couldn't do it with quite the intensity we had intended, but I came in, it was just a few days into September, and did hit senior gold at the end of that month. So that was a pretty good accomplishment, but didn't go really, really fast. It was 11 months later when I hit Emerald, at the time, the only Emerald in Canada. And it was also the month my husband passed away on the 19th of the month, and I hit Emerald that month. Um, so that was sort of the beginning of my journey. But it was kind of a cool thing. It was unexpected. It wasn't the cancer that took him. It was kind of a cool thing because, in most circumstances, one might have to worry financially a little bit if their husband passed away. And, but I didn't. I had a lot of peace around that because I had this really growing, fun business. And he did have a position. It was only a senior gold or something at the time. So I just proceeded to kind of build my business. And then I was faced with the dilemma: do I re-enroll myself when I hit diamond at the level that I could re-enroll myself, or do I take his position that I kept kind of quiet and make that my re-enrollment, my reentry position? When you're a widow, you have that option in Plexus. So I made it my reentry position, and of course, this past year, was able to take that second position to diamond. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell there. Kylie, I don't know if there's something. Where would you like me to go from here?
I'm so glad I asked you to share because I didn't know a lot of that story. So that was really awesome. But I'm so grateful just for the compensation plan and for this company for that very reason. Like they really do have everyone's interest at heart. And so I think that I love that how selfless they are. Um, I would love to be able to hear like what does your kind of day to day look like of really what has helped you? Because I feel like you've had experience for a lot of ways and how you've continued to network. And what does that look like as far as kind of like the daily IPA? Like, what are the things that you tend to do?
Okay.
Just out of curiosity. Um,
Okay. And first, I want to say, I just want to mention, because you mentioned the compensation plan and how wonderful this compensation plan is. And I'm going to tell you that I'm in a mastermind group with some other networkers from other companies. We're 10 of us, and we've been together for many, many years. They are still every month on a call, blown away by the things I tell them about our compensation plan. Truly, 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 I don't believe there's any other company that can hold a candle to the compensation plan that we have. I not long ago, I actually went into the Diamond page in Plexus and shared my heart around the compensation plan, because you'll hear a lot of diamonds say things like, I earn more than a brain surgeon does, or I make more than doctors in my community, which in many cases, of course, is true. On the other hand, then there'll be some diamonds who will say, I'm a diamond and I'm not making the income of a brain surgeon, but that's the story that I've heard. And I've got a couple of feelings about that. But one of the things, when Alfred wrote the compensation plan and he spoke with me about it in 2012, he said, Nat, I don't know if we're going to see anybody make $100,000 a month here, which of course we have many. But he said, I don't know if we'll see anybody make $100,000 a month, but we're going to have a heck of a lot of people making $25,000 a month. And that excited me. That really excited me. At that time, I thought if I could make $25,000 a month, that would be plenty for me to have a good life. And but more importantly, I want to say, when I was in Melaleuca and had gotten up to $50,000 a month, I had only one person making $5,000 a month, and I had two or three making about 1,000, and that was it. If you talk to any diamond, I have several who make a six-figure income. I've got a lot who make $3,000 or $4,000 a month. I've got people making $2,500 a month, and that's been enough for them to stay home with their kids. A whole lot of people making $1,000 a month. That is not what a typical top earner in a company can say. And I can tell you, being in a group with people who make more than I do, they don't have nearly the number of people making life-changing income as we do. And it's because, every company has a pie. If you envision the money that's in the pot, think of it as a pie. Half the pie always goes to the company. That pays for R&D, it pays for their staffing and all the things that they do, like putting on promotions for us, which you have to admit, our promotions are pretty darn rich. That comes from their half. Then the other half is paid to us. In most companies, there's a pretty big portion of that pie that would go to a handful of top earners. And then the rest of that pie is split among everyone else. Plexus splits a pie very differently. So we can have new people come in and start making income that has an impact on their family from the month they come in. And that is just unusual. So there's that. Now, if I were to be honest with my IPA activity today as a double diamond, it's not it really isn't the activity that got me here. And I say that because I'm now in my 60s. I didn't intend to be really working. I started Plexus at 50, first with the goal of just making 10,000 a month. And then I thought, okay, well, 25,000 a month. And then when it's get higher than that, I thought, okay, this is really nice. Now I have money that I can really do things with my kids, my grandkids, the things that I like to give to. But it isn't my goal at this stage to keep finding new people to build, because at some point I want to start enjoying some of the fruits of having built and worked full time since 1994, by the way, in this industry. 30 years I've been working in this industry. When I say working it, I mean working it long hours, lots of travel, really hooking arms with the people that I bring in until they get to the level that they're satisfied with. So, but what did the IPA activity look like? I didn't start my industry in this business when we had social media. And if you try to look on me on Instagram, you'd be sadly disappointed. And if you follow me on Facebook, you'll be sadly disappointed, because I'm not great at social media. It's not my gift. It's not where I want to spend my time. But what I'm very gifted at is identifying people to work with whose path I cross. And so I can share this a little bit. One thing I'm very comfortable with is asking people if they'd be open to taking a look at the business. I believe I'm really good at casting vision and helping people to believe that they could do well here. And I'm somebody who always teaches that if you can overcome the objection they likely have in their head and they're not saying out loud in your approach, you at least have a shot of them listening to you. So here's the typical type of thing I might do. I could be at the keg, and maybe I have a dynamite server, and the server is full of personality. She's charismatic. She's very helpful. She's engaged. She has good eye contact. She's paying attention to us. She's just one of those servers that you say, man, she's really good at what she does, and she's a people person. So once, we've had our meal and there's an opportunity, I might say to her, if her name is Kylie, I'd say, Kylie, I've got to ask you something. First of all, I want to ask you, do you love your job? Is this something you could see yourself doing long-term? Typically, it's not something they love, and it's not something they foresee themselves doing long-term. And I'll say, I'm only asking this question, Kylie, because, in the short time I've been with you, I've found you to be extremely outgoing. You've got an amazing personality. You're so helpful. You're obviously a people person. I look for people just like you in my business. Have you ever thought of owning your own business? And typically they say yes or no. And I'll say, well, this may or may not be for you. If you see it the way I think you might see it, I know you could be incredible at this business, and I would love the opportunity to partner with you. If you would give me a little bit of time so I could just show you what I do, and you can decide for yourself. If it's not for you, it may be not great timing, but at least you'll know what I do, and you might think of me down the road should timing change. And the other thing is, you may come across somebody who's looking for a way to make extra side income from home, from their phone, and you might think of me in that case too. Would you be open to me sharing some information with you? And that script I have used over and over and over for 30 years. It can be the woman who's helping me buy a dress. It can be one of the moms of my kids, friends. It was something I did a lot, and I taught my team to intentionally get comfortable so that when they were out and about, after identifying who is your perfect partner, who is your perfect customer, and who is your perfect partner. And by the way, your perfect customer isn't typically the person who's overweight and unhealthy, and your perfect business partner isn't necessarily the person who needs the money the most, right? Because both may be in circumstances by somewhat by their choice and the choices they continue to make. So I look for people who already have had some success, who understand what it is to work hard, who know how to set goals, who it could be the woman who raised money to put a new playground in her neighborhood, or the woman who lost 100 pounds. So she set a goal and she was very determined. The person who is quite healthy and likes to work out and likes to do those things because she's already investing in herself. So, but I do teach the team all the time. You have to keep your funnel full. So you've got to be not just posting, you've got to be doing reach outs. More important than posting is your reach outs. So our challenges typically are around the reach outs that they're making. And obviously keeping the posts up, because that is the window dressing of your business. But mostly it's keeping your funnel full. And I tell people you do it in spurts. You can't be doing it with high intensity time. But when there are times when you are when you've got events you can invite them to, we have a weekly VSS. We do it every Thursday. We've been doing it every Thursday for 4 years. We started February of 2020, and that is our weekly thing that everybody invites people to for product. And the Sunday night business that Melissa Eichenhorst started, that's our weekly meeting that we invite people to for business. And that is a very important part of our system. We have anywhere from, on a low night, 90 to 130 show up every Thursday for our VSS, because the team just knows it's always on, with the exception if the Thursday falls on Christmas or convention week. We don't have it, but we do run it probably 49 or 50 of the 52 weeks of the year. It's kind of answering your question.
No, I appreciate that. I love the questions too, of just being able to do that. And then I'm sure you have a system of how you're connecting with them after, of like what you're sharing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very systemized in terms of, as you guys probably are too. Like it's very, very, very prescriptive when somebody comes in or when somebody is looking at it. If somebody says that they'd be interested in the product, then we're very strict about that. You start with 2 videos, triplex video, microbiome video. You come back and you ask them what resonated most with you. If you were to do something, if you were considering plexus, could I ask you what would be a couple of your health goals for the year 2024, so that I could help sort of give you any additional information or share a testimonial. I like to do a video testimonial that might speak to you. And that's kind of where we start. We teach the team this, the minute they ask a question: how much does it cost? Will it interfere with my medication? How long do I need to be on it? It doesn't matter what the question is. You put your support line in the 3-way. My diamond, my sapphire, my emerald, they still put me in 3 ways. You put somebody in a 3-way because there's a function in the 3-way, and my job is to now edify, that person who's brought them into the 3-way. I'm going to edify her and build confidence in that prospect, that the person who's talking to them about plexus knows what they're talking about, but at the same time take all the pressure off that person who may be fairly new to know where to grab the resources and how to answer the questions. And then we put them in a health and wellness, where we do the ad tag message with our health and wellness page. And if they're interested in the business, they go into our business page. Pretty simple.
That's awesome. Well, I was going to say simple is key and clear for sure. One question that someone had is, what do you do to create community and engagement with your customers and your business builders? So I'm going to go with probably that same funnel, correct? Unless you got some other things you do.
Yeah. I think the one big thing we found that has really worked for customer retention, because we've had legs in the team that are not as good at retaining as others. And so what we have found that has really closed that gap and helped everybody is, instead of relying on our health and wellness page to provide a lot of the education or the larger group challenges, where they do get some community, is encourage. We've really started over the last year or so having our golds and above run small chat groups. We have our ranked chat groups going on all the time in the larger team, but the small customer chat groups where we have our golds, and we'll say as golds, put your new people coming in, and sometimes if they start really growing, they have to get one of their team members to help, but put your new customers in a chat. So let's say that the gold team has put 5 people in the last week. Those 5 people go into one chat. They get introduced to one another, and there's no expectation of business. There isn't any business talk in there. The purpose of that chat is to help you gain confidence in the products, develop habits around the products, maybe do some reminders with one another, give some teaching, and they don't know each other yet. Within about a week, it's really fun how they start supporting one another. Come on, you can do it. Set your alarm. I know you keep saying you forget to take your balance before dinner. Set your alarm. And then funny things will happen. Like one customer will, do a thing in there saying, Kylie, have you remembered? Dinner's in an hour. Have you taken your balance? That sort of thing. So we find that has really helped the most for customer engagement and community. And then they feel more comfortable in the larger community things that we do.
That's good. And then the other one question is, what do you consider as the most essential things you do regularly that you feel moves the needle forward daily in your business? Like, and you can speak to whichever level, but I know that you mentioned obviously today looks different than previous, but like especially for those that still work like full-time jobs besides this, what's kind of your encouragement there?
Um, I think, well, the one thing that I do a lot um, and take responsibility for is if I have somebody, for example, I have somebody who's just recently gone Senior Ruby in April. She went Senior Ruby, maintained Senior Ruby with a little bit of growth in May. So now, but she's been a full-time teacher. So I said to her, I will be the go-to person in the chat groups that her team will know, because from 8 until 4, basically, she can't get in there. She can't listen. She can't communicate. So I will be in there and I will do the communication. But I think the big thing that everybody needs to stay engaged is, and what I ask my people to do, is to really, really, really share with the possibility. I know it sounds so cliche, the vision, casting the vision for them, but I find if I find somebody who's just losing a little bit of intention with Plexus, or a little focus, or I feel they're getting a little, I don't know, a little discouraged, a 15-minute conversation reminding them that what they did to get there to gold, or what they did to get there to senior gold, nothing changes to take them all the way to emerald. It's just doing more of it, and maybe getting a little bit better at your retention, maybe getting a little bit better at converting to business builders. But everything they basically do to get to gold and senior gold. And I feel like lots of times our golds and senior golds think that the rubies and the emeralds do something far better, or that there's something they haven't figured out that they're doing. And in most cases, they actually have it all. They've learned pretty much most of what they need to learn at that point. They just need to do it longer, more consistently, and maybe with a little bit more intensity. Because people, remember, don't come in really because of the products. They might come in because of the products, but they stay because of you. They stay because they trust you, they like you, they believe in you. You're that crutch that can take them over to something different and new. And so our job is to always be reminding them of what's possible. And and I think for our golds and our senior golds, I'm always wanting them to understand that as a diamond and as a double diamond, most of the skills they have now, they're going to get better in their leadership skills. They're going to get better in their mindset. They're going to learn, they're going to continue to learn and get better, as I continue to do. I just came out of the bath. I was sore from all the stuff we had done today, but I immediately have a podcast on, because that's a perfect opportunity to do a little bit of learning. When they have that same kind of commitment to personal growth, and just keep doing the stuff they already know to do, they can take it all the way to diamond. They just usually give up too early.
That's helpful to know. I appreciate how it really is simple. It's just that consistency compounds. And then, like you said, on the leadership, I think that's awesome. I'd love to hear like what are, and then we're right at 30 minutes, so I want to be respectful of your time, but what are a couple of your like top favorite books or podcasts to listen to? Like What has been kind of a standout for you?
Well, I am right now, I've done a lot of professional networking, or different networkers, and I did get certified with John Maxwell. So I've done all of that stuff. But you know what I'm really enjoying right now, because I'm really wanting to refresh myself on the tips and the strategies from other diamonds in plexus. So I am doing Melissa Eichenhorst and Rebecca Folks podcast. Can't remember what it's called right now, but it's the two of them. Brittany Howard. I listen to Brittany Howard stuff. I'll do Jessica Heffley stuff. I'm actually listening to the Plexus Diamonds because for a couple of reasons. One is I feel when I pass on a really good podcast to my team and it's actually a diamond in Plexus, there's another level of excitement about that teaching that it comes from somebody who's done it here at Plexus. So I think if somebody just focused on, and the other really big thing for me when I came into Plexus was the diamond documentaries. I listened to one every day when I came in. And when I ran out of them, and in fact, I started my day and I finished my day with a diamond documentary. That poured so much belief into me. And when I ran out of them, I just started listening to them again. And what I did, and I lost it, and I was so disappointed, is I had a little journal and I wrote summaries on them with these little categories beside it, so that when I was talking to somebody, it was really easy for me. Now, a lot of those are gone now. They've been redoing them and that kind of thing. But and then I would put them out in my different chat groups. And I still do that to this day. I'll listen to one and say, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I can introduce you to her when we're at convention. Listen to this. And I always get great feedback on that.
Thank you. I love that. Well, does anyone else have like, we'll have one last question, then I want to definitely make sure that Miss Natalie gets to be off of here. So yeah,
I have
go.
a question, Natalie.
Yes. Hi,
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Hey there. So I'm just curious because you have such a great journey with Plexus, but of course, so rich before Plexus. Um, what do you know now that you wish you would have known before? And what's some of the valuable information that you have taken with you, even from your previous network marketing positions that have just enriched your time with us?
So what I wish I had known then, well, definitely I wish before I understood compensation plans the way I did, because I poured myself into at Melaleuca. I'm very open about that. I was in a lawsuit with them for 5 years. I was with Melaleuca for 5 years, and but I didn't know compensation plans, so I didn't know how it was how much of a disadvantage that plan was to a lot of people who are not. If you're a networker, you can do well in any compensation plan, a networker. But 80% of our people are people are never going to recruit the people that will take them to diamond or take them to emerald, but they would like the opportunity to make a few $1,000s a month, maybe have retirement income, that sort of thing. So I wish I had known more about compensation plans. And to this day, all of these years later, I can say with such strong conviction, there is no compensation plan that I've looked at, and I've evaluated them along the way, that is anywhere as fair as Plexus is. And I think the other thing that I'm glad that I learned, and I wish I had known better before, and that is that one of the biggest mistakes I find a leader makes along their journey is to step out of their business and step away from their team because they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted, that kind of thing. And what they don't realize they've done, and I did it myself in the past, is that you've lost people's trust. If you, or I try to get my people to understand that when life starts to happen, and life will happen, things will happen, a spouse will die, a parent will die, there'll be a divorce, whatever it is, challenges with your children, challenges are going to happen. But if the result of that always means you step away from your team, you disappear for a while, you're not showing up on team calls, you're not showing up in team chats, you're not giving them some challenges, you're not having that daily communication, you have in essence told them they don't really matter to you. they don't matter enough to keep them a priority when other things in your life happen. Because there's a lot of priorities in your life you do stay in touch with when life happens. You don't stop communicating with your kids. You don't stop going to work. You don't stop going to the grocery store and maybe even getting together with some of your friends. But so many people stop communicating with their team and stop showing up for their team. And what you've told them is they don't matter that much. They matter only when everything in your life is going okay. And that is a huge mistake. And I try to get people to understand, always show up in some capacity. I did when my husband passed away. I continued to show up because by that time I had learned my lesson. My team needs to know that they're important to me no matter what is happening in my team. So I don't know, does that answer the question, Stephanie?
That was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you hopping on, and I'll get this recording situated and set out so you guys can share it with your teams. But I just really am so appreciative of you finding the time, Natalie. So thank
Well,
you
thank
so much. It'll be exciting to see you next week.
If you are at convention and you see me, please come and hello.
Absolutely. And take a picture.